What happens when community meets conversation? You get real stories, honest dialogue, and hear voices from your neighborhood. This is CANdid Conversations, where change begins with listening.
Back to CANdid Conversations, where real issues meet real people. I'm your host, Merrick, presenting from the Collective Action Network. We're going to be unpacking gun violence in our neighborhoods and what it's going to take to stop the cycle. Joining me today is Sergeant Brewer from the Evansville Police Department. Him is Alexis Nunn from the Prosecutor's Office and Analysis. And has had several years in the front lines of this issue. And today we're going to be able to hear from the other side of it. Our community members will have Ty Cole and Bridget Tate also being able to speak into their lived experience of gun violence and how they have been directly affected by that violence. They're the voices of this conversation and to drive this change forward. But before we dive in, I'd just like to lay out some of the rules of engagement. Times on this to have conversations, and with that, questions can be heightened and we can feel strongly about things. What I would like to do is just create a safe space that has honesty, claim that we're listening and not labeling. We approach every conversation with mutual respect, shared humility, and an understanding that we all are striving towards a safer community. And so with that, we have with us Housing and Community Development, M. Armstrong, who's going to kick us off with resident report. And for those of you who aren't familiar, these residents' reports are opportunities for residents to be able to speak into, again, their lived experiences, the systems that they interact with, and how they're navigating those systems, what their experiences in their neighborhoods are. And from that, we take what we're hearing and start to bring about some momentum to make sure that we're hitting on and responding to what residents are feeling and experiencing out there in the field. Thank you for being with us, everybody.
Good to be here.
Yeah, if you don't mind, to kick us off.
Okay. Thank you, Merrick. Recently asked residents of Evansville to share their thoughts and experiences around gun violence. One clear theme was how gun violence shapes how people move through the city. Those who don't live in high crime areas say that when they hear about a shooting, they're less likely to visit that part of town. This leads to divisions between safe and unsafe areas, which hurts local businesses and weakens our sense of unity. Many believe that for Evansville to thrive, every neighborhood must feel safe and supported. Several community members highlighted mental health and veteran support as areas of concern. One veteran shared that the stigma connecting veterans to violence is harmful and that more reintegration programs and mental health services are needed, especially to prevent crisis tied to trauma, substance use, or lack of support. We have poverty, unstable home environments, and a lack of mentorship were mentioned frequently. Many responses pointed to the absence of positive male role models and the pressures single mothers face in raising children without strong community support. Respondents believe that stronger youth engagement, mentorship, and early intervention are key to long-term change. Their major concern is unsecured firearms. I've heard this before, especially guns left in vehicles. Residents described how these weapons are often stolen and later used in violent crimes, sometimes long after the theft. Finally, several residents expressed feeling overwhelmed by the frequency of violence reported. On local news and platforms, saying, why is this happening so often and what is being done about it? So they just want to be informed. It's a teenager that spoke up and said very powerfully, if gun violence happened in my neighborhood, I'd want to know how it started, how youth are getting guns, and what is being done to teach us how to solve the problem before it gets that far. Students, they were saying that going beyond lockdown drills, active programs that teach young people conflict resolution, regulation, safe gun practices. There's also a desire for parent education, getting families to talk to their children early about safety, responsibility, and respect for life. Merrick, overall, the voices are clear. Evansville wants change. People care about each other, and they're calling for community-based solutions, prevention, and a renewed sense of shared responsibility for safety and healing.
Mm-hmm.
That's what I got.
Yeah, I can't argue with that. And just a few of them, people feel free to chime in. But particularly that stuck out to me is simply that narrative, right, of different places around town feels more dangerous than others. Notice in spending time, quite a bit of time, both in Jacobsville and the south side of Evansville, is that once you put 2 feet down in those neighborhoods, oftentimes a lot of that fear or whatever narrative that had been given to you starts to fall away. You start to meet the people, to get to know them, and you'll start to feel, honestly, a whole lot safer once putting 2 feet down and getting to know the environment and getting to know the people who are in and around that space, making it better for everybody to live in. And so I know that we, in particular, in the South Side have had, I guess you could say, trouble with news stations and others that come in looking for a piece, and we try to give them take, and it's been spun differently. And so there is a piece there about rewriting that narrative for people to get a better understanding of what's really taking place. It's cool to hear from residents that they feel similar and that we can continue to amplify what they're saying in order to get a new narrative out there for the solutions that we're looking for. Stick out to anybody else?
Yeah, I wanted to kind of jump on what same thing you're saying. Even as a police officer working into neighborhoods in different areas of the city, rings true for us. Get out of the car, walk around the neighborhood. A number of initiatives, the police department, where, for example, in the summer, we do this Walking Wednesday, getting around in neighborhoods, how much your perspective changes. Again, you said putting your feet on the ground, walking down the sidewalks in these neighborhoods, and you notice and observe things that you normally wouldn't if you're driving around in a police car. And you get to know the people that are in the neighborhoods. And as you said, there can be some is about what a particular area of the city is like. But once you put your feet down in that neighborhood, you really get to know the people in the neighborhoods, that there's a lot going on there that otherwise you would not be privileged to know.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think we'll come back to it. I think a piece of that and maybe part of the solution is the more that we can do that, and we can do that with one another, communication breakdown starts to heal itself in a way that now we're getting the information to who it needs to be in front of and connecting the right folks so that to move towards those solutions. And I think it happens by being in proximity with folks.
Absolutely.
Ms. Bridget?
What sticks out to me, raised on the South Side, is we do care for each other. I think a lot of people think that just a bunch of people that don't care about each other, and that's not true. Definitely care for each other, and we're just shooting up each other and have no sense of well-being.
And I think we lose some of that whenever we're just being pushed, again, that narrative that this is all that's taking place, nothing's being done about it. Like many of the topics that we're going to be talking about, it's very multifaceted, right? Especially when we talk about kids, not just about kids with guns. It's the environment, it's parents, it's the culture, it's the community. So as we start to dig into that, I think you're going to hear a lot more of the care and compassion that community members have for one another as we strive towards our actions as well. So with that being said, I think it would also be a good time now for Alexis, if you can, just share a little bit of the data that you have behind a lot that's taken place.
Yeah, so far this year, between January 1 and the end of June, I'm able to recover 385 firearms.
Okay.
Which is a lot. And a number, I don't have the exact breakdown, but a number of those firearms do stolen from unlocked vehicles. It's unfortunate, but is what it is. Most of our recovered guns, however, are coming from young adults, primarily 30 to 35 and younger, and some juveniles now. The juveniles make up a smaller portion. Usually it's 18 to 35 where we're seeing most of those firearm recoveries.
Okay.
The good news is our shots fired is down from 2024. It's down 27% this year so far, which is encouraging to see.
Big win.
PD does an excellent job in their response to shots fired, that every shots fired call that comes into dispatch does get a response from motor patrol officers. They will go out and investigate. Now, not every time are they able to find a victim or damage or casings, and sometimes it is just fireworks or ways that it sounds like a gunshot, but it isn't. But in the times where it really matters, they show up, and it becomes a really big collaborative effort between units within EPD, Motor Patrol, the sergeants, street crimes, adult investigative unit, in investigating those shots fired.
Absolutely. Well, thank you for sharing that. And is there anything else, Josh, I know that you mentioned some stats yourself, but was there anything that you wanted to add to that?
Bring our stats, and we'll talk about it a little bit later. Group violence intervention, we'll go in depth about that. We have seen a decrease in our shots fired. We've seen a decrease in our homicides since GVI has been introduced. We've also had an increase of recovered guns. I think we're being very proactive, going out there and stop those that are trying to harm others, and at the same time willing to provide resources and connect and build a relationship with those that may find themselves in a situation where they may be a victim one day, or maybe they're an offender today, but tomorrow they're a victim. And that's what we see a lot of when we're with talking about and dealing with gun violence in our community.
For sure, for adding that. That being said, we're going to take a short break, and when we come back, we're going to hear from both Bridget Tate and Ty Cole about their lived experience, gun violence role it has played in their lives. So stick with us, and we'll be right back.
What happens when community meets conversation? You get real stories, honest dialogue, and hear voices from your neighborhood. This is CANdid Conversations, where change begins with listening.
Welcome back, everybody. Today, we are talking about gun violence and the effects that it has here in our city. With us, we have folks who are being a part of the solution. We have neighbors here at the table alongside the prosecutor's office and the Evansville Police Department. I wanted to give the opportunity for our residents here in Evansville to share a little bit about their story. Ms. Bridget or Ty, if you could just share a little bit about your story and how gun violence has played a part in that.
I'll go first. So the first time I picked up a gun, I was 9 years old. I had been in a group of adults, and I was encouraged to discharge the gun. Was into the sky. And that was like the first time where I really got what comes with the adrenaline rush and everything from, using a firearm. Then as I got older, I would sneak around to certain individuals who I lived with and just play with guns and stuff. And as I got older, I had my own personal gun when I was around 13 years old. We would rob houses for guns, and we would get like 20, 30 guns, and then we just go through the neighborhood where I lived at and just rob houses for guns, and we would sell them to adults for what we thought, like we could sell 30 guns for like $200. We thought that was a lot of money, and we thought that we were, prepared for something like. But this is before any like real violence broke out in Evansville in my generation, because where I grew up, the neighborhood that I lived in was the opposition to every other neighborhood. So even though I wasn't amongst that group of kids that always got into it with everybody, I hung with older people, so they had their own things going on, their own crowds, but I still mingled with those people from time to time. And I saw when the gun violence and street beefs really pop off. So I remember seeing these kids used to hang together. I'm 26, so everybody who's 26 and younger, a little older, they used to hang together. So when it first went down, it was like the Chicago music influence around 2014 made everything in Evansville go downhill. And that it made it fun for people to talk about people's dead friends. So the street beef, how Evansville is not set up like any other city. It's not set up like California. The gangs aren't set up like New York. It's fully about, we get into it, your friend died between him and somebody else. They had like an argument or something, and if me and you get into it, now I'm going to say something about your friend, maybe put in a little song, drop it on SoundCloud, and then that's how stuff, or I send a post on Facebook or something like that. So as I grew up, I started seeing a lot of my friends die. Like, most of my friends have died pertaining to gun violence. Like, I can name names: Jarnell Carter, Deviante Gaines, my friend Thaddeus, Logan Burke. My friend Logan, he was a good kid. Everybody loved him. Some kid was aiming a gun at his face, playing around, and he smacked the gun, and the gun discharged in his left eye and killed him. And just as I grown up, one of my friends who accidentally killed his brother, he just got like a juvenile manslaughter, like he was let off from that. So they freed him because they knew he didn't do it on purpose. So when your friend kill your friend, that just gives you a different mindset to take a step back and see it. So where are these guns coming from? I was there, so I know where these guns are coming from. People are selling these guns to the kids who are bringing them cash money, and they know that they can just go buy another gun or pay their car note or help with their rent or something. And then people don't want to talk about it. But another way, kids will rob trains. So rob trains you get the Dracos, the which are mini AK-47s, and nowadays they got switches, which are like they make guns into automatic fire, rapid fire. They didn't have those when I was growing up. Somebody thought about this and they started 3D printing switches, and now it's like 100 shots at one time. So these days, these kids, they just need something different. You gotta talk about stuff like this. You gotta get them one-on-one, let them know packing guns ain't cool, and you taking somebody's life ain't cool. You gotta get some people around them that maybe have took lives and let them know, about this. Just bring awareness to it.
Some of your story there just reminds me of some of my adolescence as well, or kids that I've mentored, that what you shared is exactly what's happening right here in our city. So I appreciate that, Ty. Ms. Bridget, would you mind sharing a little bit about your story and how gun violence has played a role in that?
October 9th, 2011. It changed my life forever. My only son, Derek Brian Jackson II, was murdered. His murder is still unsolved. It was a Sunday afternoon, and it was just unbelievable. In the city you're from, for something like this to happen, and somebody knows, several people know. And for it to still be unsolved is just, I don't even have the words to say what it did to me. I just basically didn't even want to live. Took me, I'm still not over it. Never will be. Probably took me, it'll be 15 years in October. It took me at least 9 of those years to at least get myself up and want to do anything again. And the emotional, what it does to you emotionally and physically. Because it breaks you down so much emotionally that it becomes physical. So, gunshot violence has turned into PTSD like it has for soldiers. It's happening so much now that it is PTSD. I can't explain it. You need therapy. Yeah. You need so much. And the way it affects you is you can't explain it. You can't say what you would do if it would happen to you. And for somebody to to take a life like that. I mean, you just don't understand, how can you do that? I mean, what are you thinking? And I mean, if I was to come face to face with who did it, I mean, I don't know what I would do. I mean, because you're just like, I don't understand how you could even do that. I mean, what kind of mindset did you have?
Almost hard to wrap your head around, and then from those experiencing it, it sounds like it's unfathomable, maybe like a nightmare that you keep waking up to because of all the deep-rooted things attached to it. It's unnatural that we would have to bury our own kids, and death is never easy in the first place. So this is, just a subtle reminder. Life is fragile. Care about the people who are in your life. Check in on them. And also, it sounds as if, that's a part of the solution as well, is by checking in on folks. So what are we doing as a community to build one another up and to support one another, not just in situations like this, but others that we see people going through. And I think that consistency of having people in your corner will go a long way. Not that it takes anything away. We certainly know that, but support does help. So Ms. Bridget, thank you for that vulnerability. Ty, you as well for sharing that information. We're going to take a quick break, and when we come back, we're going to hear from Officer Brewer and what it looks like to be on the force and being in the streets. And so stay with us.
What happens when community meets conversation? You get real stories, honest dialogue, and hear voices from your neighborhood. This is CANdid Conversations, where change begins with listening.
Welcome back, everyone. Joining us now is Sergeant Brewer of the Evansville Police Department. Sergeant Brewer has served with EPD over a decade, focusing on community-oriented policing, and he's currently overseeing the Evansville Police Department's Crime Prevention Unit. Actually, cool story, Josh and I go back probably about a decade now, which is pretty cool to think about. Yeah. We stepped into the scene with each other in regards to community and police relationships. And so what does that look like between one side and the other, as people like to put it? Instead, we came together and we talked about what does it look like to bridge that gap between community and police. And a piece of that is keeping people safe and the gun violence that takes place in the neighborhoods that he finds himself in. So Josh, I'd just like to say thank you for being here. Thank you for your dedication and knowing you personally, your passion and compassion that you have in this work. It shows, and they got the right person in that crime prevention unit.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
It's no problem. Josh, would you mind just sharing a little bit about experience from the community policing side of things?
So I've been with the crime prevention unit for a couple of years now. Back in 2023, I was promoted to sergeant and took over the crime prevention unit. Probably my first week in there, Chief Smith handed me a binder, and it said GVI on it, Group Violence Intervention. This is yours now. Okay, what is this? So I started reading through this binder and trying to get a grasp on what this is, and really addressing gun violence and group violence in our community. Prior to that, I served as a patrol officer on our streets, where I did respond to shots fired calls. I did respond to where individuals had been shot with non-life-threatening injuries, with life-threatening injuries. I've been on those chaotic scenes where you see what happens when that trigger is pulled and the aftermath, seeing families affected and just very difficult situations. And now having the opportunity that in the role that I'm in now is, okay, how do we prevent this from happening? How do we connect with individuals that are engaged with gun violence? We mentioned it earlier that, hey, you may be the person pulling the trigger today, but tomorrow you could be the target of somebody else's. And we definitely do see that. So that brought in 2021, we had the National Network for Safe Communities with John Jay College. They came to Evansville, did an analysis of our gun violence and our group violence. And they actually identified, earlier we were talking about the number of shootings in particular areas of the city, how many people are involved, and they found that 0.09% of the population of Evansville is involved in all gun violence.
Wow.
That's a very small percentage.
Very small.
And so with GVI, I'm going to call it GVI here on out. Again, group violence intervention. They were able to identify at that time about 12 active, loosely street groups in our city and about 110 people involved. So these 110 people probably most likely associated with shots fired and shootings in our entire city. So what's our population in Evansville right now? I think I'm probably way off. Is it 130,000?
180.
Oh, see,
That's probably. I think
that
that's
includes the county. I think.
Yes. That,
Yeah, it does include
Yeah.
the county. The city, I don't know.
But
Probably
we're,
about
we're
130.
talking about 110 people.
yeah.
And then how do we strategically coordinate our efforts of the police department, of our non-governmental agency partners, nonprofit agencies, other service providers, individuals with lived experience? How do we engage everybody so that we can reduce gun violence in our community?
Yeah.
So GVI is a three-pronged approach. It's law enforcement. It is social service providers, those that are able to provide services, whether it's education, maybe it's with housing, maybe it's a juvenile mentor, a parent aid. It can be anything.
Yep.
You know, we have a number of agencies that we partner with, and then also our individuals with lived experience. You know, Bridget, Ty, and we'll be able to talk about some of the involvement that they've had with us to go out and talk with individuals that have been identified. And individuals are identified through what we have, what's called a shooting review. Any shooting that happens in Evansville, we have a review. We come to the table with the prosecutor's office, Evansville Police Department, multiple units within the Evansville Police Department. So we have some of our federal partners at the table, probation, parole, where we talk about the situation. And then we identify individuals. Is there a tendency that there may be a retaliation? Or can we get ahead of from something else from happening? And we identify those individuals, and then we go out and make contact with them, not in an enforcement element, but in an outreach and engagement element, where officers, and we've been doing a much better job having Ty and Miss Bridget with us, going out and engaging individuals whose names have come up. And that's called a custom notification. We go to their homes, we knock on their doors, and I'll even myself, even with the police uniform on, I've been in living rooms of homes of individuals for over the past couple of years. I've heard how many shootings this person's been involved with, but I've sat on their couch in their living room with them and their grandmother and had a discussion about the realities of shootings and being involved with gun violence. And our message is pretty simple. You know, one, we don't want to see you dead. We don't want to bury you. We don't want to see you in prison. We want to see you do well. We want to see you thrive. We want to see you succeed. If you choose to do that in Evansville, we're going to give you all the resources we can if you're willing to accept. But if you're going to continue to engage with guns, we know who you are, and we're going to hold you accountable as well. And we have all these partners on board. There you go. And that's, again, it's agencies, it's law enforcement, and it's people within the neighborhoods as well saying, hey, we're standing up against this. We know the harm that this causes. We've made a lot of progress, I would say, in the last couple of years. I think this year, definitely, we did what's called our first call-in with our juvenile population a few weeks back. A very powerful event. Ty was a speaker at that event, and it was just talking to the youth in our city that have been involved or closely associated with gun violence. And even with some of the conversations that we prepared for that event, just finding like the overwhelming number of the kids that we talked to, there's such a fixation on guns. There's an unhealthy fixation on guns. In my personal experience, I never touched a handgun until I became a police officer. A rifle and shotgun for hunting and with my grandfather, but a handgun was something that I was never around. So it is different to me as well. And so I recognize that when I come to the table to have these conversations as well, is my life experience is different. And being able to learn from individuals that have had exposure to guns at a younger age and what's going on in their community. We got to be willing to ask those questions. And I'm not coming to the table thinking I have the answers.
For sure.
I want to help. What's the best way to do this?
Yeah.
And I think GVI's been excellent in that, and I'm excited about where we're going, but we still have a lot of work to do.
Yeah, absolutely. No, I appreciate that. The fact that it's been a long time coming, that you have this three-pronged approach with GVI and taking it a step further even than hosting these events. So those who aren't familiar, This call-in event happened here locally in Evansville at YCC. It's a corrections facility for youth that is ran by the Evansville Rescue Mission. And what we did in partnership with them, EPD, the city of Evansville, our residents and community leaders came together to have this conversation with youth, to be able to have some really real and honest conversations, hear from lived experiences, those who have been locked up before or was heading down that path but was able to turn their life around. And by the end of the event, we had kids who were emotional and in tears. You had families and mothers and fathers and grandparents doing the same thing. You had embraces. And so it was just a really cool event to be able to see folks come together, to see that the message that was delivered in some regards landed in a lot of ways. And to your point, that a lot of work that needs to happen is going to be this work from here moving forward, who's participating in it and how. With a little bit, did you want to ask either Ty or Ms. Bridget to speak towards what it looks like to be out in the field and door knocking with you?
Yeah, absolutely. So the custom notification that I had mentioned is, hey, we go out to the homes and make contact with individuals that are identified, and we prefer to bring somebody with us that has lived experience and is a member of the community, because lo and behold, not everybody wants to talk to this guy in a uniform. Right. They want to see somebody who represents them, looks like them, and comes from the area that they come from and has that experience. So having Ty and Bridget has been excellent. So I would love to, whoever would love to chime in, go ahead and chime in and kind of talk about that custom notification process. I know my guys have said, we've gone out there, nobody was talking to us. As soon as Bridget started talking, man, it was on, and really could see that connection that was being made.
I really enjoyed, I don't know if enjoyed is the word, but I was really happy to be able to help. It did seem as though when I was able to speak, besides the officers that I was with, the lady that I was with, that we went to speak with, she was definitely more receptive when I spoke. The first question that she asked me was that, are you with EPD? And I was like, no, I'm not. And she asked me who I was with, and I said who I was with, and then she was ready to talk. Mm-hmm. And I was, I told her my experience, and then we just started talking, and she was like, no, I don't want to lose my son. And I was like, no, you don't. And I told her, what I was going through, and I was like, you don't want to experience what I'm experiencing. So I said, if, it seems that you are the one that has his ear, so you want to get this through to him. I said, you don't want to have to go see him in jail, and you definitely don't want to go to the cemetery to see him. I said, so yes, have a talk with him and let him know that you don't want either. I said, and she was very receptive, and she was like, no, I don't want that. And basically he was standing right there too, listening. And I think that helped a lot. Once she knew that I wasn't with EPD, then she was willing to listen and started talking, and it just helped a lot. And I was like, it helped her, but it also helped me. Yeah. So I like doing it. Yeah. So I'm here to help. And
we appreciate
I did like it.
I think we see that, and I think your team sees that, and the people who interact with your team sees that as well. And so from the community side of things, we're receptive and we're encouraged by folks showing up. So thank you. And Ms. Bridget, thank you for getting out there in the field with them to be able to connect with folks. And it sounds as if it can be a little bit healing for you as well to be into this space, as hard as it is. When we come back, we're going to try to wrap this up as succinctly as we can, and that will be just an open discussion about what are some of the solutions? What are the experiences on both sides, and where we see opportunities to come in and make a positive change and a positive impact in this space? So stick with us, and we'll be right back.
What happens when community meets conversation? You get real stories, honest dialogue, and hear voices from your neighborhood. This is CANdid Conversations, where change begins with listening.
Welcome back, everybody. This has been a jam-packed conversation thus far, but we're not done with it yet. We're going to touch on things that we've talked about earlier in this show, talking about, again, the lived experience and the solutions and where we might find this help that we need to help fulfill the work and who can play a role in that. I'm just going to jump right back into some of the things that we've talked about already. Josh, you mentioned GVI, you mentioned going door to door and meeting folks there just to provide resources rather than to catch them up in trouble. Can you speak a little bit about that? And then I know, Ms. Bridget, you were able to share a little bit about your story, but Ty, if you can pick up, I think that'd be great for folks to hear what that experience is like.
Yeah, that's the custom notification process.
Yes.
And that opportunity there. So go for it, Ty.
Yeah, so my experience with the GVI and with the crime prevention unit, originally I was a person, I was like anti-police, and I always got into it with the cops, like always got stopped, like you fit the description or do the stuff that people go through. But dealing with these officers one-on-one, getting to know them and their character completely changed my mind on law enforcement. And I see that these officers, they're really authentic, kind-hearted. They're just good people. And that helped me kind of open up to work with them, like knowing that it's not just a uniform, but these are actually people that care. So my experience going out into these different neighborhoods and talking to people, giving them resources, it's been very receptive. Like every time we went to doors and people opened up, it's like they wanted to talk. You know, some of them actually wanted to talk too much and incriminate themselves. But that just shows you that these officers are doing their job. They're doing it very well. I think this is going to change Evansville for the better, and it already has made a mass impact.
With that being said, since we're on the topic of the resources that you guys drop off, is that just a piece of paper? Is that a door hanger? Touch on a little bit of the resources that you're dropping off and ways that people can engage with this work. I think there may be a contact information. There may be resources that you can go to. Would you mind touching on that a little bit?
It did start off as kind of a sheet of paper, and it's evolved into a nice door hanger with some information on it. But a lot of it just different resources that we're partnered with. We'd love to try to engage with people at the door. Unfortunately, we do have a lot of times where we'll go out to the house multiple times and we're not able to make contact. So at that point, it's like, hey, we still want to offer something, so we do provide the resources, information for the resources. As far as follow-up on those, when we leave them there, we're not quite sure if they're going to take advantage of that or not. And that's one of the pitfalls of what we're doing, and we're trying to figure out how to do that more efficiently. But I'm going to let Alexis talk about the resources and reporting information.
And the prosecutor's office, in partnership with EPD and VCSO, came together and created this door hanger that if we're not able to make face-to-face contact, we will leave it on your door in your mailbox, and it just says, hey, there was a gun violence incident reported in your area, and here's some resources. Sergeant Brewer mentioned earlier that not everybody wants to talk to somebody in uniform. You don't want to be seen doing it, or whatever the reason is. And we've established various different avenues of anonymous tips or reporting that the community can take advantage of. One of those is our gun tips email. It's simply guntips@vanderburggov.org. You can report anonymously. Nobody has to know you made it except for you. You can always call the Evansville Police Department at their main line or the sheriff's office at their main line. And then, of course, in any emergency, there's 911, and they'll always take your report. On the other side, since it's a two-sided door hanger, it's got a list of numerous different organizations here in the community that offer various different support.
It's not just service providers, but it's like the whole gamut, right? When we think about the needs of our community, again, oftentimes is multifaceted. And so to see what a lot of people would consider collective impact happening in this space is a really cool thing to see. Residents, PD as a stakeholder, and then the many service providers. I'm guessing their therapy or counseling might be a piece of that.
Housing support, therapy, parenting support, anger support, anything you could think of. I think we tried to get pretty solid list on here.
Yes, I don't know if I'd probably take up the rest of the time if I recognized every single one of our partners and providers. Specifically, when we had our call in, we had Southwestern Behavioral was there. We had Ireland Home-Based Services, the Evansville Christian Life Center, and the Excel Center, the Goodwill Excel Center representatives from there, which is just out of those couple agencies alone, as you said, a gamut of services and agencies available to assist, and they're committed, and they love being a part of the program as well, and wanting to engage with individuals.
Yeah. So there's a couple calls to action here that I'm hearing. One, if you are a service provider or you have your chords, your heartstrings have been struck during this conversation, there's always a need for folks in this space, even if it's just the support, even if it's just seeing people as people. But if you have resources and or programs, things that can help folks out along this journey, please reach out. You can do that connecting directly with me or the EPD. If you are a community member and whether or not you have the lived experience or not, and feel like you would like to play that role for your community in particular, that's also an open door, I would guess. Is that right, Josh?
Absolutely. We'd love to talk to you.
Yeah, have people on board in that way. So let's talk about some of the other things then. What haven't we touched on that maybe we've seen elsewhere work, or maybe again through our lived experience? What is something that we can educate folks on about what would move this in the best direction of stopping the gun violence here in Evansville? And there's no right or wrong answer.
Specifically in regards to GVI, I think we're doing the best we can with it. We're not, and I will say it's not perfect, and we don't have it fully functioning the way as originally intended. Currently, it's really operated and run through the Evansville Police Department. The way the program is set up is that it actually should be a third-party agency that is operating this program, and we're a piece of it, just like the citizens are a piece of it, just like the social service providers are a piece of it. So that's something that I would definitely like to see in the future. I think that would really help with collaboration and follow-up. That's been one of the biggest hurdles that we've had, is that follow-up and ensuring that if somebody does fall off, that we're re-engaging with them. So that's something I would definitely like to see in the future with it, is having an administrator over the GVI program.
Yeah, that'll go a long way.
Something I'd like to see in the future is a juvenile reentry program, because it's easy for kids to get right back into that mindset after they get let out of YCC, DOC, DCS, to get right back into the same environment. And a wise man once told me, if you want to change your actions, you got to change your mindset. So if there's something like that that can guide children, you can get a positive figure, a successful role model, male and female, you can make that change and instill in them principles, morals, motivation, and let them see another way, you know.
This is a conversation that doesn't stop here. Just because we are online and having this conversation, once we get offline, the conversation is going to continue. The work is going to continue. If this is something that you would like for us to bring back to the forefront as we move through different issues throughout our city, please let us know. Again, you can reach out directly to any of us and say, hey, you guys didn't talk about that long enough, and maybe we have more solutions that we can talk about. We'd be more than happy to do that. So with this time that we have in closing, I would just like to thank each of you guys for taking the time, one, to show up, to be vulnerable, to lend your heart and expertise in this space. I can say for sure just because of this here, I think we're better for it. And the community is in a better place to heal and do better because of this conversation. I know each one of you guys are going to play your part. So if today's episode moved anybody, we want to hear from you. Share your thoughts. You can do that through Candid Voices. You can always drop us an email, reach out by phone. Join us on our next episode. We will shift gears a little bit. We've always talked about wanting to root this in residents and practitioners who are in the trenches, doing the work, seeing the issues firsthand. But this one in particular is going to be about resident connection and involvement in the places that they find themselves. So thanks for tuning in, and until next time, have a good one, and we'll see you here.
What happens when community meets conversation? You get real stories, honest dialogue, and hear voices from your neighborhood. This is CANdid Conversations, where change begins with listening.